It's been 15 months since the UFC returned to the desert, but they are back this weekend with an excellent card at UFC on Fox 29 in Glendale. And joining me today on the MMAfighting.com preview show is a man who needs no introduction. You know him, Daniel DC Cormier, the light heavyweight champion of the world. Potential heavyweight champion?
Look at you. You said you're a little bit nervous, but that is good. Wow, you are a natural, Shaun.
I like you putting me on the spot immediately.
Good job. Of course, I'm gonna get you on your toes right away. You better continue. Now you've got it rolling. You better keep it going.
Hey, let's keep it going. So, Daniel, this is a little bit of a different week compared to last week. I think last week was a little chaotic. This seems more quiet, more routine. For you, I'm just curious, you're commentating the card on Saturday night. What have the past few days been like for you? What goes into the preparation for commentating a card like this on Fox?
Just watching fights, doing a lot of research on the guys on the internet constantly, trying to see interviews, old YouTube videos, like stuff where the guys are talking about. You know, a lot of times we do interviews and they're 5-10 minutes, but when you go to YouTube, you see some of these smaller shows, whether on podcasts, you get a lot more than you would get on even the bigger sites. You know, the guys are more free, they're more open, they talk longer. So that's been happening, but I find myself going back to last week over and over again, right? I'm doing these fights. As soon as I jump on Fight Pass, I go to last week's fight and I keep watching Khabib walk out. I watch him get called the champion. I just keep going back because I feel so happy for him last weekend. And yeah, I just keep doing that, man. But yeah, just a lot of research and a lot of preparation. It's been a busy week. You know, I was in LA on Wednesday and now here for the fights on the weekend.
Yeah, in Brooklyn last week.
It was awesome.
Press conference, I think we all know you want to fight Brock.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But let's jump right into it. We have a fantastic main card. Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier.
That's tough.
It's Justin and Dustin. I've been messing it up all week. That is a fighter's fight. Oh my God. I was so excited when that fight was announced. What were your initial reactions when you heard that fight?
Sometimes when guys get matched up, you just feel like the UFC got it right. Shaun Shelby or Mick Maynard, they got it right. And that was one of those fights where they got it right. You know, you went from Poirier fighting against Alvarez, then Alvarez fighting Gaethje, and now these two matching. How can you not get fireworks when you put these three guys together? That's all you've gotten, right? In the Poirier-Alvarez fight, fireworks down in the South.
Yeah.
Alvarez versus Gaethje, you know how that one was. That was just insanity. And so it feels like the natural course of action is to lock the other two in the octagon and see what happens. So I felt like they got it right, man. I was like, this is going to be a good fight. This is the type of fight that should main event cards like this in Glendale, Arizona.
Absolutely. I'm glad we got 5 rounds of this. This is one of those ones everyone's looking forward to. And Justin Gaethje coming off his first loss, like you said, against Eddie Alvarez. Dustin, in the lead up to this fight, has looked at that and sort of said, you know, I can emulate what Eddie did, but do it better. I'm a faster version. I'm a more technical version. What paths to victory do you see for Dustin?
Dustin Poirier has to maintain distance. That's tough, though, because Gaethje's going to walk him down. He's going to pressure him. Dustin needs to kind of try to keep some space between him and Justin Gaethje and try to avoid the firefight, right?
Yeah.
It's very easy to get drawn into a brawl with Justin Gaethje because he's constantly in your face and he's trying to make you fight him in that way. If you're Dustin Poirier, you got to stay on the outside. You got to stay within yourself. And also be aware, because Justin Gaethje is a smart man. What if he decides for once to use his wrestling and just change the game up, right? You got to be aware of everything and just really stay within yourself. I think the biggest key for Dustin is to just make sure he does not fight the fight that Justin Gaethje wants.
And it's funny you mentioned the wrestling. I mean, the last time Justin Gaethje was in this arena was, before this week, basically. Yeah. It was for a high school state wrestling tournament. He left as a champion. He competed 4 different years, 4 different times. He won 2 of them.
Yeah.
Having those familiar feelings in a building, does that mean anything in a fight?
You know, I look at it like this for Justin Gaethje. 2 years he came here and he lost. 2 years he came here and he walked out on top of the world. This is a tiebreaker, right? And in the biggest spot yet, winning a high school state championship is great, but winning a fight in the UFC is much bigger.
Sure.
So to come home, fight at home with an opportunity to win in front of all these fans that watch you become a state champion, it's a big deal. You know, when he walks into this arena, you know, it feels familiar. It feels like this is something I've done before. Whereas some arenas can have that mystique to it. For Justin Gaethje, this is home almost. There are very few arenas in the world where Madison Square Garden, you think, oh my God, it's the Garden. Yeah. The arena overtakes you. Fighting in Las Vegas, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm fighting in Las Vegas. He'll have none of those feelings. You know, he doesn't have to deal with any of that emotion. He's just coming home.
Well, now the lightweight division is sort of figured out. I mean, your boy is the champion right now, Khabib. This is an important fight for the division. It's immediately afterwards, a week afterwards. The timing couldn't be better. Where do you think a win puts the winner of this fight?
So I feel like it's two different places. For Poirier, I think he's right on the short list of title challengers. I don't hold that Alvarez fight against him because that wasn't a legal strike. I don't care what anybody says. I love Eddie Alvarez. He's a fighter. Yeah. And in the moment of the fight, he did something that was not right. Called it a no contest, doesn't worry. But then he beat, so let's say Poirier had won against Alvarez, former champ. Poirier had won against Anthony Pettis, former champion. And he comes in here and he beats Justin Gaethje.
He should former champion.
Yeah, he should be considered for a title fight. Obviously, if Conor McGregor decides he wants to fight again for the belt, you go Conor McGregor. But Poirier can put himself in a really in the driver's seat in terms of title contention. For Justin Gaethje, it's a little bit different, right? He just lost that last fight. He looked great in the Johnson fight. He looked great in the Alvarez fight. You know, it was a matter of who was going to land clean first that was going to win. I think it puts him back on the right track. He'll need another win or two as the division kind of sorts itself out to fight for a championship, but he will start to put himself right back where he needs to be.
Absolutely, and you know, we have a tradition here on the MMA Fighting Preview Show. We make picks. I know you're commentating the card, so we can't ask you for the pick.
So I'm going to ask you.
I'll jump on that grenade.
Yeah.
I'll jump on that grenade. I know this isn't going to please you because Dustin's your Louisiana boy.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to take Justin, 4th round knockout.
Oh, wow.
But I think it's a fight of the year in the making. I cannot see any way that this fails to live up to the expectations.
No, it's going to be great.
Yeah. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening. We have a welterweight contest between Carlos Condit and Alex Cowboy Oliveira.
Yeah.
Alex Oliveira coming in here on short notice. It was supposed to be Matt Brown. That was one of the. Now it seems like one of those fights where it's this cursed fight. We can't get to it. The short notice nature of it, especially for a guy like Carlos, who has sort of rotated between kind of being in this game and out of this game over the past 2 years. How does that affect a fighter's mentality coming into this?
He's such a longtime veteran that I think he'll be okay. But as a fan of Carlos Condit, I like the Brown fight a little bit better than I like this fight. You know,
for Condit, you mean?
For Condit.
Okay.
I like the Brown fight better than I like the Oliveira fight. So this is a weird stat that I'm going to tell you, but Cowboy Oliveira lands 4 takedowns a fight. It doesn't seem that way because he's always trying to take somebody's head off. He lands 4 takedowns every 15 minutes in the octagon.
I almost don't even believe you.
I'm telling you, it is the truth. But you don't realize it because he's sneaky with it, right? He's a striker, and you always think he's so aggressive, he's trying to knock people out, but he has an ability to take people down in there and win rounds, but he finishes people normally. Condit has shown that a guy that can wrestle does tend to give him trouble. So that's why I feel like the Brown fight was a little better for him. Good fight, real good fight, but it's going to take a good performance, a special performance by Condit to beat this young man.
It's been interesting hearing Carlos speak this week to the media. I mean, he's been very candid. His words were he wasn't all in for the Neil Magny fight, and it's rare you hear somebody say that. And also, he spoke about how he didn't feel that element of danger ever against Neil Magny, and he feels like he will against Cowboy. How do you feel about Carlos now in general, where he is in his career? Do you feel like he still has that fire in him, and this is the type of fight that can ignite it?
I feel like he realizes it now, more today than I did before I spoke with him yesterday at the fighter meetings. At the fighter meetings, he said, I wanted to get back in because I didn't feel myself when I fought Neil Magny. He goes, I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't perform my best. He goes, my training camp wasn't ideal. But he goes, I think that was partly due to me not fighting for a long time, being away. He said, so if I can keep it rolling, he goes, I feel I can get back into my groove. He said this training camp went great. He said he felt amazing. He feels like he's ready to go out there and beat Cowboy Oliveira. He needs to match the storm early. You know, we saw it in the Medeiros fight. Oliveira will try to take you out. But if he doesn't, you got a chance. Carlos Condit can beat anybody. So if he can withstand the storm of the early onslaught of Oliveira, he gives himself a shot. Tougher to do than just saying it.
Absolutely.
But that's going to be his course of action.
You know, I agree with you 100%, and I also agree when you said that you liked the Matt Brown fight more for Carlos than this one. I've been thinking the same thing, and ultimately making the pick. I have to go Cowboy by decision, but it's going to
Yeah.
be a tough one, and I think it's going to be a good one, and we're going to see a little bit of the old Carlos coming back. Moving on in the main card, a middleweight contest between Israel Adesanya, hot middleweight prospect. Everybody's talking about him, kickboxing phenom, taking on the Italian dream, Marvin Vettori. Let me ask you, everybody was so excited with Israel in his debut, both in the cage, his creativity, but also on the mic, his confidence. Were you as impressed as everybody else was?
I was, but I knew it was coming, right? Like, we knew Israel Adesanya before people in the UFC got introduced to him, because I called him. I said, hey, are you willing to come and train with me before I fought Jones the first time? Because I saw the similarities right away, right? So when we watched him in preparation for the fight, thinking that we can get him as a training partner, what he did in there was no surprise. What did surprise me was his ability to stay within himself in his first UFC fight. Didn't get excited when he hurt his opponent. Took his time, stayed the course, defended takedowns, right? He would get taken down, get right back up to his feet. He just fought as well as you could expect for a guy making his UFC debut. This fight's different though, because Marvin Vettori has a different mindset. He doesn't feel like he needs to rush the takedown. He feels like he can stand with Israel Adesanya. I don't know if that's the best idea, but he feels he can stand with them, and that will allow him to set up his takedowns when they present themselves. And Marvin asked for this.
Yeah.
He asked for this fight. He said, I want Israel. He got offered the fight before, but he said he only had 2 weeks' notice, so he initially turned it down. Now he gets the fight with a full training camp at King's MMA with confidence, man. Talking to him yesterday, he is confident that he's going to beat Israel Adesanya.
When you look at Israel and sort of the body of work he's put together, I mean, his overall combat sports record is something ridiculous, 70 wins, something like that. How do you view him as a prospect? How do you rate him? Is he one of these blue chip prospects where by the end of the year, we may be talking about this guy in title contention? Or is this something where we maybe should slow our roll and let him get his feet wet?
It'll take some time, but not a really long time. It'll take a little bit of time for him to fight for a title. But I want you to know this, though, that when Yoel Romero and Luke Rockhold were going to fight for the interim title, and Romero will miss weight, Israel said, hey, I'll fight Rockhold. No questions. He goes, I'll fight Rockhold for an interim title. Why not? That's the confidence of this young man. He's a really, really big-time prospect. The UFC seems to be putting, I mean, he's on Fox on his second fight in the promotion. There's a lot of hope that he could become a star. He has all of it, man. He has everything to become a star, but he's got to take care of Vettori. I've seen Vettori in all of his UFC fights, and he's good, and he's tough, and he's strong, and he's big. And he's gonna take the fight to Israel. But I believe sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for, because it can really backfire on you. Vettori doesn't seem to think that that's the case here. We'll see.
I agree. I mean, Marvin has a giant chip on his shoulder this week. You can tell he has energy. But I agree. I think Israel's going to take this, and I think it's going to be something spectacular, maybe a second-round knockout. And we're going to continue to see the rise of Israel Adesanya. Last fight on the main card, certainly not least, it's the women's strawweight. Courtney Casey, the local fighter, taking on Michelle Waterson, the karate hottie. Big size advantage here for Courtney Casey. It almost looked like two different divisions.
Yeah.
Michelle's coming in. She was used to be an atomweight champion for Invicta. And I know for Courtney, she's a local fighter, MMA lab fighter, it's hard for her to get down to 115. I mean, you're used to, you have experience fighting people bigger, and, you know, how do you deal with that sort of disadvantage in a fight?
Well, Michelle Waterson has one tool that really will help her, is the front kick. She does that front push kick so well that she creates space as the bigger fighters try to walk her down and really wear on her. She's going to have to do that a lot tomorrow, because Courtney Casey not only is a bigger fighter, she's a tremendous athlete.
Yeah.
She said that the week after she blew her knee out, she received a letter, an invitation to try out for the U.S. women's soccer national team. I mean, that's how much of an athlete this young lady is. You know, we asked her how good of a soccer player she was, and that's what she told us. I mean, so you're talking about an A-plus level athlete in this fight. Talking to Michelle Waterson, her mind frame and her mindset seems to be in the right place. There were a lot of things personally that she dealt with prior to this two-fight losing streak that have been dealt with and put in place. She feels as though she's learned to manage everything outside of the octagon too. You remember when Michelle Waterson, when WME took over and the UFC was sold, she was everywhere. New York Fashion Week. She was on TV all the time. She had new sponsorship, getting photos. So it was a whirlwind for this young lady. She's learned how to deal with all that now as she goes into this next fight, and she just wants to be herself.
Yeah.
She goes, if I can just be myself, I will be okay. It's a tough fight, but a really good fight for two women that have been right on the cusp. And who's had a tougher road in the UFC than Courtney Casey?
Oh my goodness.
I mean, she's fought everybody as soon as she walked into the octagon. She's fought everybody.
Exactly. She's almost in that early form of Rose Namajunas,
Yeah.
where her record is not indicative
No.
of where she is in the division. I think she's something like 7-5.
Yeah, but she's better.
But she's been fighting killers over and over. I agree with everything you said. That being said, I think Courtney Casey, she's gonna bring a lot of local support. And I think the size is going to be difficult for Michelle Waterson to handle. I'm picking Courtney Casey by decision. Wonderful main card. My last question for you, DC. This is a 14-fight card, especially coming off the 9-fight card last week. You got a tough assignment for you on Saturday. There's little nuggets though, all throughout the card. There's Arjun Buller making his second fight. Luke Sanders, another prospect who's trying to come back. John Moraga, Wilson Hayes. What's one or two fights you have your eye on that maybe everybody else doesn't?
First off, this is going to be my best friend. The Monster Energy drink right here is going to be my best friend tomorrow because 14 fights, that's a long day.
Yeah.
I mean, our day starts tomorrow at 11:30 in the morning. Oof. So, going to be a long day. But two of the fights, I'm looking forward to Arjun. You know, he's one of my teammates, stepping back into the octagon.
Wearing the turban.
Also, Alejandro Perez. You know, he's fighting a local guy. And he's quietly built a nice UFC resume.
He has. I was surprised today.
Off of the Ultimate Fighter Latin America, he's quietly built a really nice resume in the UFC. And if he gets this win tomorrow, he'll find himself in a much bigger spot. So looking forward to the Perez fight, looking forward to Buller, and also looking forward to Wilson Hayes versus John Moraga. That is the best fight on the undercard. So I'm excited to watch that one too.
Excellent. Well, I can't thank you enough for taking the time
Can I
for us,
have a
DC. Yeah.
You're pretty good at this.
Oh,
you are
man.
pretty. I mean, I
appreciate
cannot believe you were sitting here going, I'm nervous. Great job, Shaun.
Putting me on blast
Great
again, but I
job,
appreciate
Shaun.
it.
Look
I
how
appreciate it so much.
rosy those little cheeks are.
That's what happens.
Look at that. You don't
That's
do
what
well with compliments, do you?
Well, thank you so much,
worries.
DC. It's been a blast. It's been a fun week. Keep it locked all day and all night tomorrow on MMA Fighting. We'll have complete coverage of UFC on Fox 29. For DC, I'm Shaun Al-Shatti, signing off. Enjoy the fights.
Good job, dude.
Hey,
what?
thanks, man.
That was good.
I appreciate it,
That was
brother.
good. You're a little nervous, though.
Oh, dude, I was nervous as fuck.